So Chaos Walking is a dystopian world with a very different premise from anything that I've ever heard of before. Where did you come up with the idea of the noise?
Well, first, I never thought of it as a dystopia. I just thought of it as a place. I mean, it makes me seem like I'm trying to poo-poo dystopia, which I'm not.
Hmm.
But obviously, dystopia was in the ether, and so and also I think the secret of dystopia, particularly in young adult fiction, is dystopia is a world where society's divided. You're into sects and groups. There are extremely specific rules which you will be very punished for not following, but nobody will explain them to you. It's high school. It's basically high school. And so
Hmm.
that's why I think it's such an important part of young adult fiction because it's just an emotional representation of the 11th grade, which I can totally respond to. But the premise for this particular place was the idea, even when I wrote it in 2007, 2008, was the idea of information overload, that we were suddenly, in an unprecedented way, being pelted with people's opinions and their thoughts constantly. And it really started with just the idea of being in line with somebody and they're yapping on their phone. And you're
Hmm.
like, why do I have to hear this much of your conversation? Can you not just lower your voice? And so the question became, as the internet almost obliges us to share parts of ourselves. What if you had no choice in that transaction? What if you had to share and everything you
Hmm.
thought was available to everyone? And what effect would that have on you? What effect would that have on you if you were young and you needed the privacy to become a person? And so that's where it started. And unfortunately, I think the world's only gotten noisier. And I think, unfortunately, people have learned how to use that noise for not such great purposes to spread lies and to make fake enemies. But there are good things about it too. I'm not just being a doomsayer. There's wonderful things about the internet, finding your tribe.
Hmm.
But I think the question of the darkness of the internet needs to be constantly asked, and so that's where the initial idea came from.
Wow, that's awesome. Very cool. Thank you.
Well,
Um,
I'll try to
now,
keep.
uh, did you ever think that your novels were going to become film?
I mean, the line I've been using on that is from Joy Luck Club, which is always hope, never expect.
Right.
And it's even publishing a book felt like a pipe dream. I'm from a teensy tiny town. It's about 40 miles south of Seattle, and nobody in my town did things like write books. And
Hmm.
my philosophy has always been real writers don't write, they write anyway. And so I've thought, well, I'll write anyway. Who knows what'll happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so all my big dream was just holding a book in my hand, the physical object of a book in my hand. And that happened. And everything since then has felt like, you know, I've gotten sent too much dessert. Like somebody's going to notice at some point that So it feels, you hope for it, you dream of it, but you never think it's going to happen. And what a ridiculous bit of luck when it does. So.
Right. Yeah. So this is a dream come true for you.
Uh, the Brit, I lived in England for 20 years, and so the Brit in me kind of thinks, well, I've got better dreams than that. It's a dream come true, a particular dream.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's absurd and makes me laugh, and I feel super lucky, and it's just really funny. So I try to take it with some grace. I mean,
Right.
the only thing you can do with good fortune, in my belief, is to just not be a dick. So happens to
And that's good. That's a good philosophy to have.
try to pass it along and just try to be as generous as possible.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, yeah. So, how involved in the film process were you?
Pretty, quite a lot. I mean, I really tried to. I think I understand how authors feel about their work because I'm an author, and but I also embrace the idea that the book remains, and the movie's not going to erase the book.
Hmm.
I can have that and know that the book is mine. That I'm really okay with filmmakers bringing different expertise that I don't have to do different things. And so, with that attitude, I just try to go in as helpful as possible.
Hmm.
This is why I did stuff, and here for any questions you got, and how about this, and how about that. And I find that when you do that, people are eager to talk to you because they otherwise they get I think they pardon me I think they get a little worried, um, ooh, we don't want to upset him, you know? And I'm like, no, upset me. It's all fine. It's all good, you know, about stuff. And if you do that, they really want to know because they also,
Right.
it's the, everybody's so cynical about Hollywood, but it really is filled with people who want to make good stuff. They really,
Yeah.
really, and if you are helpful to that process, they will embrace you. So,
That's awesome. That's really great to hear because I know that some readers tend to be a little cautious about seeing the film version of their favorite books, you know. So to be that open, I'm sure was really helpful for them.
you know, I hope so. And you know, I go back to the remix I did, and I say that the film, I view a film as a remix of the book.
Hmm.
Um, it does a different thing,
Yeah.
and you can like the original track, and you can also like the remix, acknowledging that there are some changes, and that's my attitude.
Hmm.
Great adaptations um, always veer. They're never an exact replica because a movie has to do a different thing. So I mean, look at the condensation. A great screenplay like Sense and Sensibility or Howard's End, they always they have to condense, they have to combine, but they capture the spirit of what's there and replicate it in a different way as a remix. So I'm happy with that. I think fans of the book will be pleased.
That's wonderful. That's great. And so, what was your reaction when the cast was announced?
Casting is hilarious. You know, you never believe anything. But Daisy was first on, and she was really keen to play Viola. She wrote me a fantastic letter and note about why she wanted to play Viola, and it was just so smart, so good, and I was so happy. Then Tom came aboard, and I was familiar with Tom because I, you know, worked with Juan Antonio Bayona, and I knew he'd been in Billy Elliot, and he was starting to pop. And then they promptly became stars of the two biggest movie franchises in history. So that's a nice bit of luck, you know. And then they just kept knocking it out of the park. I mean, what a casting director! I mean, to pick Cynthia Erivo, who has since gone on to two Oscar nominations, and David Oyelowo is such an interesting choice, and Mads Mikkelsen is the main villain. I mean, these are cool choices, and you don't often get cool. And I'm very, very pleased to have gotten cool. Makes me feel slightly cool. Sitting double change when you're about to start.
Oh, that's very cool. I love that. And so what did it feel like to see your characters coming to life?
You know, I mean, it's. I remember I, two experiences. One is on a Monster Calls when I was in the very first day of shooting was on a motion capture stage, so it was just a gray grid, and Liam Neeson and Louis McDougall were there, and the directors and Juan Antonio were talking about this is where the Parsons house is going to be. This is where you stand to use a stick on the Parsons house, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I made up the Parsons house, you know. So incredible. And sort of the other, not the other end of it, but the slightly different experiences on Guess Walking when we're in northern Quebec in literally a leech infested swamp. Literally, you can see the leeches swimming around. It's about 1 billion degrees. There are 17 trillion mosquitoes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I brought us all here. Yeah. Sorry, but I acknowledge that I brought us all here to this.
Right. That's really fun. So cool. And so like you said that the film version of books is always a remix. And so with that, you feel confident that this film is doing your novel justice.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all about the spirit. It's all about what the book is really trying to be about, which to me is always human connection,
Hmm.
real human connection, not sort of false, cheesy, easy romance. They really need each other, and they really come to rely on each other.
Hmm.
That to me was by far the most important. And you know, and the underlying themes um, of information overload and of also of masculinity and good and very very bad masculinity and those are all there, and plus the dog, and plus the noise. So yeah, I the spirit of the book is 100% there. I've really no problems.
Fantastic. Is there anything from your book that you wish had made it onto the screen?
Oh, I mean, you know, the book is 500 pages, and a screenplay is maybe 100. So you know, you got.
Right.
So there's a character called Wilf who I really love in the book, who's not in the film, but I totally understand why. His character in the book is meant as a pause, as a bit of peace, and there
Okay.
wasn't room for that in the book, and he's important in the later books. So if we're lucky enough to get more movies, I think he'll be back. So
Wonderful. Very cool. So those are all the questions that I have for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. And I'm really excited and looking forward to this film.
me too. Me too. I hope you like it. I hope people.
Have a great day.
Thanks a lot.